Welcome to Inspiring Teachers, a show bringing you classroom tips, motivation, and stories from successful educators. Join Tavis Beam and Danny Hogger as they explore the why of teaching.
Welcome to an exciting new edition of Inspiring Teachers. I'm Danny Hogger. Tavis Beam is on special assignment, recharging for his next term of school as a woodshop teacher. And I'm here with Michele Hill. Michele is a teacher, blogger, speaker, and passionate presenter. At spiritededucator.blogspot.com, you can find a lot of her content discussing the benefits of a strong network, elevating the profession of teaching, and how to connect people to better teaching practices. I also love what you were writing recently about finding balance as a lifelong journey. I think so many of us are working on that. And Michele, thank you for joining us today on Inspiring Teachers.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be on the other end of this where I'm being interviewed. So this is awesome. Great.
I always loved it. With a background in radio broadcasting, whenever someone would reach out to me to do something, ooh, please, let me see how you do this. So that's very, very cool. Michele, I know kind of a lot about you professionally, but I don't know a lot about how you came into education in your first place or what your journey was like getting into teaching and getting into education. Could you share that with us, please?
Sure. I grew up in Philadelphia. I am one of four children. I originally thought I wanted to be a lawyer because I like to argue my point. But then I was really drawn to education because I struggled a little bit in education, actually, and my brother was dyslexic. And so it really drew me to helping students that have special needs or, special disabilities. And so I decided that I wanted to become a special ed teacher. So I did that for a while until I had my first child, and I don't want to tell you how old he is now because then people start adding it up, and it's not really fair. But anyway, I have four grown children now, and I'm a grandmother of two. But somewhere along the line, I absolutely embraced the passion that I had for Spanish, for learning another language, and so then I became a world language teacher who was also certified as a special education teacher. And that was a combination that was very unusual. And so I taught Spanish to the upper level down to the, students in a resource classroom. So I always tell people I am a teacher of students because people ask, what do you teach? And we always say, I teach world language, or I teach, in your case, wood shop, or I teach math. But really what my calling has been is to really teach kids and to work with some of our most challenging kids that present probably issues and problems in the school. I just love to work with those kids and be able to make inroads with them and get them excited about learning.
That's really wonderful. I love the fact that no matter when you meet anybody, it seems like people are always looking for a soundbite or a box that they can put us in, but teachers do so many things. So I know Tavis teaches woodshop and I do U.S. history, econ, gov, but I also record a free song every week and, have a new album out now, Two Sides, January plug, now that we're here. And it's just really amazing that teachers, I think, get inspired to think outside the box because we relate to students on a one-on-one level. And maybe your background enjoying argumentation. I was a debate champion in California in 2009. I think that helps because you are good then already at thinking, what is the other person conceiving? And then how can I communicate education and lessons better to them? What would I be thinking in their seats? Would I be entertained? Would I be enjoying this class? Isn't it great to always know or try to think outside of your own perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's probably what makes teachers that are really good so great is that they can consider other perspectives. I mean, we do know there are teachers out there who are educators standing up in front of a classroom, basically on their pulpit and just, spewing information and not engaging students, and they exist. Hopefully they're a small fraction of the teachers that are out there now, but I love a student-centered classroom where kids have the opportunity to embrace their own learning and also to drive the bus on learning. And I think that that's so important in education today.
What are some of the ways that you like to let them drive? I love in a classroom where I can have them ask questions. Before we left for break, while you're thinking about that, I had them all post questions for World War II and government. I've never taught either of those subjects going forward. It's my first year in high school after 4 years in middle school. And I want to know what they want to know first. because I'm going to have so many blind spots. And I don't mind being honest with them. In 5 years, I've been expected to teach everything from early humans to modern U.S. history. If you don't think I have some blind spots, you're crazy. I'm going to be learning a lot of this with them along the way. And so I love having them do oral histories and talk to people in their family and bring in stories from veterans. What are some things that you like to do to have them guide learning?
Well, first I want to give a shout out to you because not everyone is reflective. Not everyone is willing to say that they don't know something.
Sure.
Quick analogy or a quick little story about teaching Spanish for AP, which I was not qualified to do at all. But in my district, we had someone leave and that class became available, and I didn't want the kids to not have somebody who was engaging, so I threw my hat into the ring. And the first thing I did was I went into that class and I told the kids, I said, listen, I probably am not qualified to teach this level because this is not my expertise. However, we will get through this together. And I had a lot of native speakers, and I think because I was willing to admit that to them, they were really great because they knew that it was a team effort. And I really think there was some divine intervention, but 9 out of 13 kids that I think it was 9 out of 13 got a 3 or better on the AP test.
Wow, great.
And it was really not a whole lot about me, but it was more that it was a team effort and we worked at it together. So kudos to you for admitting that you don't know everything, because I think that that's something that is so valuable to students. When they feel like they can teach us things, they're more likely to be actively engaged. So some of the things that I used to love to do with my students, I love learning stations. And learning stations, you can really let the kids lead that learning. So you pick a different topic for each of the learning stations, and then you pick, I used to call it, the teacher of that particular station, the tutor, the profesor in Espanol, whatever. And that teacher would then work with the students in that learning station. And the students would rotate around the room, but the teacher stayed stable. And so that was really great because it was peer to peer learning, and that was awesome. The other thing is, I think it's great that you ask them to create questions, because that way you know what they know or want to know. So like KWL charts, where you get them to think about things. Creating questions in advance is awesome. I used to love to let them make up test questions, and the very different levels of difficulty that they had to do, 5 multiple choice and, 5 of these, and they would have to work at them together. Or assessments, fun assessments. I used to do something in, kind of like Mad Libs, but they would have to make up, each group would have a topic, and they would make up their Mad Libs, and they would make up an answer key, and then they would swap. I would photocopy theirs and then swap them to the other groups of students.
Fun.
Their own learning. I'm a big proponent of project-based learning, because I believe that kids have desire of what they want to learn. And if you let them have choice, that they're more likely to do a really great job with it. So I used to, come up with an idea. One of the things, I taught Spanish, so they had the hotel chapter. They had to create a hotel, and they had to be a marketing agency for that hotel. And I said to them, you can do whatever you want. You can make a web page, you can make a Twitter, social media, you can make a trifold, you can make a poster board. You can do whatever you want to do, but you have to have these requirements. And so it was very student-led. Some of them made games. Some of them, it was just amazing what they came up with. And they would ask, they'd be like, can I? I'm like, what's the answer to that? And they're like, yes, the answer is yes.
That's great.
But,
I love that.
Yeah, that was awesome, because it really said to them, you're in control of your learning. Now, of course, they had, benchmarks and pivot points that they had to reach, but it certainly allowed them the flexibility. I said, the only rule I have is that you have to grow from this experience. So if you've already done a trifold before and you're not learning how to manipulate new software, then it's a C project. But if you are learning web page design and it's brand new to you, even though it may not be stellar, you've learned something so big from this, that'll be an A project. So it really required them to reach. So just some of the ideas that I had in my classroom.
It's a really fantastic idea. I love the choose your own adventure, and I like that you clearly set boundaries, benchmarks, guidelines, but then you let them set the ceiling, right? It's kind of like you put the floor out there and let them go as high as they wanted. Last week, I talked to Tisha Richmond in Oregon. She's a culinary arts teacher, and she was talking about sometimes she'll give all the ingredients, but she won't name the recipe. So they don't know what they're making. I'm like, that's so phenomenal. How can I do that for history? My question was, what do you want students to have learned from you at the end of a year or at the end of a term, maybe besides curriculum?
It's really funny because as an educator, for me, what I want them to learn really has so little to do with curriculum. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I want my kids to be good people. I want them to be I want them to be good citizens, to be just, productive people who can earn a living, who can provide for a family if they decide to have one, who can be independent and be happy. And so that's really what I wish for my kids. And it looks different in every student. When we talk about curriculum, we all have this idea that we want our kids to reach for the brass ring and we want them to really achieve. So, speaking Spanish, using the target language to be able to communicate is what I want them to know from the curriculum. I want them to be able to travel and be able to find the bathroom and to order food and, to negotiate a taxi ride and those kinds of things, because those are life skills. But beyond that, I really want them to be the best possible version of themselves that they can be.
That's fantastic. That's phenomenal. Do you think that your why of teaching has changed through the years of experience?
Yeah. So when I first started, I was, I probably was going to teach the students about being responsible. I mean, that's a thing that a lot of young people, a lot of young teachers do. Like, if they don't have their notebook, it's deduction of points. Or if they don't have a pencil, that I'm not giving them one, and they have to learn. And in my first couple of years, I used to say to them, when the store closes, they don't let you in. So if you don't have your homework, it's 0. Years later, I started thinking about what a 0 does to a kid. What does that do to that student? Yes, it could try to instill some responsibility in them, but it often just killed their grade and didn't give you an accurate reflection of their grade. And so I started becoming a lot more kind in terms of content, with what they did, and taught the responsibility as a secondary issue, and not hold them accountable the same way for those types of things, but hold them accountable for the important things. And so I think, ultimately, I became a teacher who really taught the whole student, the whole child. And I think that a lot of that came from years of experience and also being a mom and realizing that my own kids make mistakes and, that they needed an opportunity to try again, or to start over, or to make that up. And I just think it's just so important to be a teacher who teaches the whole student and sees the big picture.
That's really, really strong. And so is a lot of the writing that you have produced to that effect, and people should seek that out. I want to give you a chance to tell them where can people find you on social media and find out more about what you're doing and find it.
When I made my Twitter handle, I really wasn't thinking long term. It was just, I just jumped on Twitter. So it's at Hill M Rispo, RISPO. That's my Twitter handle. I do have Spirited Educator blogspot.com. But often you'll find a lot of my writings through ASCD. If you search out ASCD, Michele Hill and Dynamic Synergy, I partnered up with my principal to give a perspective of teacher and school leader. And so I write a lot. I write a monthly column for ASCD.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for all of that. We'd love to have you on again in the future. And I really appreciate everything that you share. It's positive, it's motivating, and it reminds teachers too that yeah, not every day is going to be a dream, right? But you're going to keep finding ways to improve, reflect, evaluate. And that's what we're all about too. And sharing these positive stories helps us all know that we're in it together. We're part of that, whether it's a tribe or a network, and love the way that you talk about that too. So thank you so much, Michele, for being a guest today on Inspiring Teachers.
You are so welcome. And I hope that your listeners, teachers, whether they're brand new teachers or they're veteran teachers that maybe have lost a little bit of their spark, I hope that they really seek out other positive, passionate people that elevate this profession. Because to be honest with you, I could not imagine doing something different. Educating young minds and being role models for students is probably, it's a vocation. It's not a career, it's a vocation.
That's right.
So it's something that I take seriously, very much so, but I'm also so passionate about it that it comes across as so positive. So I hope that people watching will really think about that and understand that it is, there's a saying a friend of mine had that said, to whom much is given, much is asked in return. And so as teachers, we are required to give a lot in return because we've been given this opportunity. So I appreciate it. Last little plug, if you want to follow Disrupt Ed TV at Disrupt Ed TV as well. I have a Teacher Spark, much like you, because we are like-minded, and also they have great other people who are amazing educators of all different types of titles that I think your listeners would probably like as well.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, and so many great notes for the journey of education, and certainly a vocation that has a lifelong impact as well. So we will see you on the next edition of Inspiring Teachers. I'm Danny Hogger, and for Tavis Beam, who's not here but will be here soon, we will see you on the next edition, and class dismissed.